giving a presentation to a group of district managers many years ago. And Mark Strickland was in the back of the room, and he raised his hand, and in a very flattering way, there you are, Mark, still in the back of the room, raised his hand just like that. It looked just like that. I said, Mark. He said, Reade, I just want to tell you, the thing I like about you the most is you never talk about numbers. I thought, oh my goodness, it struck me. I really don't talk about numbers much at all. It hadn't occurred to me till Mark pointed it out. But he said, yeah, you never talk about numbers. And I thought, well, numbers are sort of an end result. They're sort of an output, and I do tend to focus on the input, which of course is people, right? It's people, and if you get all those components right, and people and process and those things, and culture and all those, the numbers work out if you get that. So I think that's why I don't tend to do that. But since Mark seemed to be hungry for numbers, and since many of you obviously think the way Mark does, I thought I'd give you some numbers. So there's a number. 32,000, right? You want numbers? Huh, there you go. 16,000. I have more numbers. You want another one? Yeah. See, Mark, you were right. They were hungering for this, okay? There we go. That's all the numbers I'm giving you. I'm not giving you any other numbers. That's it. That's all I got for you. So, 32,000. You might say, why 32,000? When I look around this room and look at the people in this room, and with the understanding of demographic trends and health trends and frankly, life expectancy, I can say that averaging the people in this room, that odds are you'll probably live to be about 88 years old. That's it. That's your average life expectancy for the people in this room is roughly 88 years. And it's just math. Just go to the internet. But it's true. And if you live to be 88 years old, then you will live precisely, ready? 32,000 days. Right, we were waiting for it. You knew it was coming. 32,000 days. So on average, give or take, the people in this room, on average, get about 32,000 days to live and breathe on this earth. And if you, yeah, there it is, right, that's how it works. And if you do that, you could look at that and break it down in a few different clumps. First 8,000 days gets you to 22 years of age. And unless you're someone like one of our optometrists, probably by the time you hit 22, your schooling years are done, right? I think that's fair. Most of us in this room, whatever, by 22, you weren't doing as much full-time, full education things. You know, things here and there, self-education, all that sort of stuff. But mostly your schooling years and your upbringing is done by 22. And then from 22 to 66 are your career years. And oddly enough, after I put this together, there was an article about retirement in the Wall Street Journal, and it said that today, the average retirement age is 66. I didn't make it up. It's just the math, okay? And then you retire at 66. You have 8,000 more days before you drop dead. That's how it is. There you go. That's your life in a nutshell, all right? When Mark asks for numbers, I give him numbers, all right? Good, okay. And then, you also might think about your career years broken up into maybe two phases. The first 8,000 years, from 22 to 24, is sort of a finding your career foothold, a striving, an ambition, and then somewhere around, say, 44, sort of a generative impulse takes over. And it becomes about sort of bringing along the next generation and bringing along others. Sort of maybe that first 8,000 days is a little bit more self-focused, and that second 8,000 days is a little bit more other-focused. And again, I can't make this up. I called Bill Clark as I was preparing this presentation. I said, Bill, just out of curiosity, what is the average age of a National Vision store manager? Get this. It's 44. It's Right. 16,000 days in. Right. Halfway through your career. Right. It's right there. So when you think about this, you ask yourself questions that if you're going to live a intentional, deliberate life versus just blowing with the wind, you do ask yourself, right? How do you want to spend the 16,000 days of your career? And unless you've chosen a solitary profession, and by the way, no one in this room has chosen a solitary profession, but unless you've chosen a solitary profession, you ask yourself the question, who and what kind of an organization and what kind of an entity do you want to associate yourself with for those 16,000 days? This is especially important because of a concept that I've shared with many of you, which I love this because it's such a great buzzword for such an obvious concept, which is the social multiplier effect, which is you become more like the people you spend time with. This is something that is just true. Anyone who's a parent who has been sort of raising a high school kid, you want them to fall in with the right crowd because then they'll act like the people in the right crowd as opposed to the wrong crowd. We know how that goes. This is hang out with athletic people and you become more athletic. Hang out with people who drink a lot and you end up drinking more. Again, this is just how we humans are. This is not brilliant. This is an obvious concept. But we all need to answer this question, who and what kind of an organization, an entity do you want to associate with because of the social multiplier effect? We will become more like those people. And by the way, a quick warning to you all. As the manager of a store, your multiplier effect is larger. Actually, the people around you become more like you because you are the leader of the organization. So your multiplier, you affect how their lives are and their behaviors more because of your role in that store. But when I ask myself this question, I come to a question for myself, which is, what do I want out of the company I work for? What is the company that I want to work for? And that's what I'd like to talk to you about. The company I want to work for is honest and upright and wholesome. I mean, who wants to hang out with and work with dishonest people, right? And then become more like them. I mean, that's even worse. One, they're dishonest, and then you become more like them because you're hanging out with them. You know, when I think about last night, I mean, what was it? It was good, wholesome fun, right? I didn't see anyone get stone drunk and all that. I didn't think anyone felt uncomfortable or oppressed. People could come and go. I hope people felt relaxed, that it was homey and easy and relaxed. A wholesome environment. I think people want to work in a wholesome environment. I want to be associated with a company that's healthy and healthful, that promotes good health habits amongst one another. You all know that if you visit the Retail Support Center, we have that book-taking library of the books that have affected the philosophical underpinnings of this company. And the book that has gone out the most is the book Younger Next Year, about how to be younger a year from now than you are today through becoming ever healthier. That's the book that has moved the most, that has more people have taken. Apparently, Good to Great is not the book they wanted. They wanted Younger Next Year. That's the book. And it's also, I've received more thank you notes that went along the lines of thank you for getting that book to me, Younger Next Year. It changed my life. And by the way, Bill Clark has said, if you just give your name to him, he'll send you that book if you don't have it. So you can do that. You all met Joan Blackwoods yesterday. She is not here today, but she's our new head of marketing. I like her for a lot of reasons. She's done marketing in our category with 1-800-CONTACT. She's worked with Walmart in the past. She's done a lot of really great, modern, sophisticated digital marketing work. But I think one factor that just put me over the edge in terms of hiring her was she used to be the marketing director of Zumba Fitness, and I have high hopes that through interacting with her, I may become ever more fit myself. We will see. Judge me next year on on that. The company I want to work for creates community. What are we doing in this room? What has happened over the past few days? We've created community. We've had interactions. We've come to know one another. We've come to enjoy one another, trust one another, have a few jokes. Actually, I think it was inspired of Sharon and Jackie to say, this is the right size for us. It's not little district meetings, nor is it 1,100 people in a hotel for the whole company. This is about the right size for the creation of community, and then we've really been enjoying as we've gone from group to group of about 130 to 150 people. It's the right size for us. The company I want to be associated with is a community. The company I want to be associated with likes to dance together. Oh my goodness, look at that, look at that. Oh my goodness. Now, if the chairman of my company, who I hope does not stumble upon all the pictures of me dancing that you all seem to insist on posting on social media, if he were to say to me, Reade, take me through this thing of why there are so many pictures of you dancing, why is that occurring? Well, I would have to justify it to him. I would say, well, I found that if I'm dancing with them on the dance floor the next day, they feel comfortable coming up to me and saying, you want to know what's really going on? Because once you've danced together on a dance floor, you're building trust. I would say that if asked. But it's only partially true. For me, there's something beautiful that happens when a group of colleagues from across the country are dancing on a dance floor. There's something special and wonderful and warm and beautiful, and that's the sort of company I want to be associated with. I'm not commenting on these pictures. All right. The company I want to work with likes a good costume party. I think I've said this to you before. I don't know what it is. This company culturally is a costume party company. This company likes to dress up, and I don't know what it is about the inhibitions that go away when you're wearing a costume, but it sure is fun for all involved. The company I want to be associated with is populated by cheetahs. I am sorry if I have said this to all of you at least 4 times. And I want to credit one of my mentors, now departed, a man named Rich Benton, who taught me this many years ago, and I've always loved it. He would say that people in many ways are either cheetah-like or goat-like. And you can take a goat and make a faster goat, but you can never get a cheetah out of a goat, just a faster goat. And we are all goat-like and cheetah-like in many ways. Like, I am a total goat when it requires anything with eye-hand coordination. I have no eye-hand coordination. If you've seen my handwriting, you know that. It's bad in a lot of ways. I'm just horrible at anything like that. And I think I'm okay with words. I'm pretty good with words. But so and we are all cheetah-like and goat-like in different ways. I think about kids for the first time that they're on a soccer field. The 4-year-olds, the first time that they're on a soccer field, they've never really had any training. It's their first game, their first thing. And, we all know, we've all seen this, right? They all clump up. They don't know how to kick the ball. It's laughable almost. But there's always one kid who, without being trained, their brain is just geared toward, they know how to kick the ball in such a way that it goes fast and straight. They know not to get in the bunch, but rather to separate out and wait for the ball to get out of the clump. Their brain is just naturally geared towards soccer. They're cheetahs. They have a cheetah brain for soccer. Might not be that brain for baseball. Might not be that brain for another sport. They have a cheetah brain for that. We all have cheetah brains for certain things and not for certain things. And it's important for you to understand that everything I say from here is predicated on the belief that you have begun by surrounding yourself with optical retailing cheetahs, people whose brains are well geared towards optical retailing. Not every brain can do it. Not every brain has that orientation. And sometimes you'll say, oh my gosh, I heard that person thinking they'd be great. And oh my goodness, they're a complete optical retailing goat. You'll say it in some collection of words, but that's what you mean. And to me, you almost have a responsibility to go to them and in some collection of words say to them, you are such a nice person, and it is just so sad that you are an absolute goat at this optical retailing thing that I hired you for, because since you're a goat, you're never going to be able to be a cheetah at this, and I am going to do you one of the biggest favors of my career, and I am going to release you to go find the thing that you are cheetah-like at, so you can have the fun and fulfillment of running really fast. Everything I say is predicated on the belief that you have surrounded yourself with optical retailing cheetahs. The company I want to work with is joyful, happy, and vibrant. You know, the easiest way to have a really happy work environment? Hire happy people. That's really how you do it. Hire happy people, you get a happy environment. Frankly, getting rid of unhappy people also helps you have a good environment. You know, you can create joy and happiness either pulling up from the top or pushing up from the bottom. Those are your two choices. So creating joy and happiness and hiring happy people, or the reverse, but getting rid of the negativity. Those are your options. The environment I want to work in is joyful, happy, and vibrant. It assumes positive intent. I don't know about you, but do you know many people who drive to work every day saying, you know, today I am so going to screw that place up. Oh my goodness. By the end of the day, they will not know what hit them. Oh my goodness, I came up with some ideas last night. That place will be a complete mess. Oh my goodness. People don't do that. What do people do? They drive to work saying, you know, I'm gonna give it my all today. I'm gonna try, and wouldn't it be so nice if at the end of the day somebody said to me, hey, nice job. Well done. You did that well. Atta girl, atta boy, well done. I think we have to assume that people come in trying to do a good job, and if they don't, and especially if they don't and they're optical retailing cheetahs, you have to ask the question, well, what's wrong with this process, or this communication flow, or this training, or our interaction, or what am I doing wrong that's got this person with positive intent not accomplishing in the way I want them to? If you assume positive intent, you have to look at the entire ecosystem of interactions and behaviors if you're not getting the outcome that you want. The company I want to be associated with is a meritocracy. Oh my goodness. There is the picture of the people in this room who started at the entry level. It's over 10% of our Walmart store managers started in an entry-level position and rose up. I've got to get the number sometime for district managers, but it's a big number. I want a company that a cheetah finds their home in and says, this is what I want to do, and I can rise up here. What I love about optical retailing is it is a meritocracy. It doesn't matter how snotty your education is or how much you have. If you walk in here and can do it, you can do it and you can rise up. The company I want to be associated with is a meritocracy. The company I want to be associated with is a company that makes people bigger and not smaller, and we all have the power to make those around us bigger and not smaller. You know, I've heard that in parenting, the thing parents have to remember, and have to remember even more as their children get older, is that children hear what a parent says as if it's being shouted from a megaphone. You may be trying to sound very quiet and understated, but they hear it like this because it's you, because you're the authority figure in their brain, in their psyche. What you say is as if it's through a megaphone, and frankly, it's the same as a manager of people. When you're their boss, they hear what you say as if you're shouting it through a megaphone. And the word choice you select, your intonation, has a large impact on how they feel when they go home. Do they feel big or do they feel deflated? Subtle word choice can make a huge difference in the self-image of others. And in choosing those words, we either make them bigger or we make them smaller. And I think bigger people do better work. The company I want to be associated with interacts with warm candor. There's a big hedge fund manager named Reade who is on the talk show circuit, and he has a philosophy that we should all interact with radical candor. And in his company, after every meeting, you grade everybody else in the meeting, and you send them some comments. Well, I don't think you said that very well. I didn't like the look on your face after you said it's radical candor. Whatever you feel about them, you tell them dead on, so they know exactly what you're feeling. Gosh, I think that would be an environment that make people a lot smaller, a lot faster. All I know is I don't want to be associated with an environment like that. I want candor. We cannot get anywhere unless we're telling the truth to one another. But I want it to come from a warm place, warm candor, where people are saying, hey, I think we could do this better. I think you can do this better. But it comes from a place of wanting you to be better, of cheering you on, of coach-like behavior versus punishing-like behavior. And I think some of this is about creating loving dynamic tension. We're all not going to agree on everything all the time. Let me tell you, in the Retail Support Center, we do not agree on everything all the time. We've got a lot of different personalities coming at things from a lot of different angles. We will not agree, but if we can find ways of having the interaction cause dynamic tension, but loving dynamic tension, then we maintain a community, we maintain good, healthy interactions, and we live to get to better and better places through speaking our truths from a warm place. The company I want to be associated is service-driven and filled with service-driven people, people who are oriented just to serve others. I love to think about a story about when somebody at Nordstrom's, which is known as one of the high-service retail organizations. They were the gold standard for a long time of service, and I remember somebody from Nordstrom's was once asked about who's in charge of training, because they were trying to figure out how you train people like that. And they said, we don't train our people. Their parents did that. And isn't that wonderful? In essence, their parents trained them, and they came to us with that sort of orientation. I think it's an important thing to keep in mind in our hiring criteria. Is this a person who is naturally service-oriented? I love the Disney story. What is the key thing that they're trying to hire for? They're trying to hire for the sort of person who, when they're walking by a family where one family member is taking a picture of the rest, who naturally and instinctively says, hey, why don't you get in that picture so I can take it? Because they know it would be a better, more memorable picture of the family. The company I want to work with is service-driven. I want to work with a company that learns from one another, inspires one another, and celebrates one another. What has happened in this room and at this conference over the past few days? We've learned from one another. We've inspired one another. We've celebrated one another. And frankly, in celebrating one another, it allows us to learn from one another, because when somebody is celebrated for doing something particularly well, other people know, oh, if I need to work on that, I could call that person, because that's their superpower, and I can learn from them. That's the sort of company I want to be associated with. I want to be associated with a life-giving environment. Things, tasks, environments, they're either life-giving or life-sucking, right? I mean, that's just how it is. All of us can go through our day, because every job has its life-sucking aspects to it. Believe me, sometimes get me started on that. Every job has aspects that are life-sucking and those which are life-giving. If the life-sucking things become the majority for far too long, you're probably in the wrong job. But the company I want to be associated with is a place that creates life-giving environments, again, relating to making people bigger. It's a lot about word choice. I like a company where there are random acts of kindness, and I love the fact about once a week, someone of our 12,000 plus associates will send me an email saying, I just thought you'd enjoy this, and they'll tell a story about a customer who heard another customer who was sort of who couldn't afford something and saying, hey, I'll pay for that. Or Or an associate who is dealing with someone who said, oh gosh, and the associate paid for the thing from the customer. Or I could go on and on and on, but just a half an hour ago, and Violetta walked up to me, and what did she do? She gave me some Filipino nuts. She gave me Filipino nuts. What was it? It was just a random act of kindness. It was, hey, I like these. I thought you might enjoy these too. I want an environment where there are lots and lots of random acts of kindness. I can't wait to try them. They look really good. But I also want an environment that's filled with random acts of just ridiculousness. I don't know why I like this so much, but I like it so much. So, last year, I don't know what happened, but I just started getting into optical socks. I'd go into a sock store. There'd be socks with eyeglasses on them. I thought that was pretty much fun. So I just started wearing optical socks all over the place. I'm wearing optical socks now. And then I thought to myself, why should I have all the fun? And let's see, hold on, I don't think, what happened to my socks? They're in this box. Oh, it's a little box. We had a bigger box because here are some socks. You're all going to be getting socks, okay? If you, they're all here, okay? You're going to get lots of them. There are plenty for everybody here. Every store manager will have the official National Vision socks, okay? So, yep. I mean, we spend so much of our time on this part of the body. Why shouldn't we spend a little bit more time on that part of the body? Don't you think that seems warranted? There they are, looking good. I loved going to Deborah at around Christmas. Could you go out and buy 1,200 pairs of socks and design some national? All right, so all right, enough about socks. Company I want to be associated with sets high standards. I mean, what is leadership anyway? Leadership is just saying this is what it looks like, right? I mean, a lot of people go along thinking, oh, I'm doing a good job, and then you come along and you say, well, no, it doesn't look like that. Actually, a good job looks like this. It looks like this. You don't know what it looks like. It looks like that. That's your job as a leader, just to rally teams to deliver across higher standards than they think they can. That's what leadership is, and I think most people fall short because they don't understand what really good looks like. But frankly, really good, in my opinion, isn't daring enough. To me, I like a company that delivers outsized success, beyond what you'd imagine success. Why am I so happy with this 71 consecutive quarters of positive comp store sales trends at numbers well above anything else? It's the best in America by a lot. It's the best retail in America. That's outsized. When am I so pleased with? The day I met Sherry back in 2002, back in that period. The company, we were a public company at the time, and the market capitalization of the company, the value of the company at the time was $5 million. We had just emerged from bankruptcy. We had a mountain of debt that no one ever knew how we'd ever pay off, least of all me. And it was a pretty ugly situation that got uglier over time. But that same company that had a $5 million market capitalization, I checked this morning, now has a $2.9 billion market capitalization 17 years later. It's outsized. It's outsized. So it's one thing to say it's here, and it's one to no. That's what we're aiming for. Asking the question, tell me if that is what we're after, and if something horrible was going to happen to you if you didn't hit that. That's the question. You always say, if I didn't hit that, something horrible would happen to me. How do I get there? It focuses the mind. The company I want to be associated with are missionaries, not mercenaries. It's nice to run a good, profitable business. That's nice. It's just not aiming really high. I think running a good, profitable business that funds a massive philanthropic campaign that's trying to solve a global public health crisis. The New York Times described the lack of glasses for the billion-plus people on Earth who have bad eyes and don't have access to affordable glasses. The New York Times referred to it as the largest public health crisis you've never heard of. We're trying to do bigger things here. Somebody was talking to me about how a competitor, who I will not name, but if you think of the competitor that you respect the least, I think that you'll all get to the same place. At any rate, how the person called them up and started saying, well, why don't you said, why don't you come work for me? And, oh, I'm really happy where I am. And then mentioned a really, really high salary number. They said, they were just trying to buy me because they didn't have anything else to offer because they weren't doing anything else. The currency of that organization was only money. The currency for us is something much, much bigger. The company I want to be associated with has the gratitude that comes from perspective, the perspective that, frankly, we're a very lucky group of people. We have good, fulfilling work. We live in a wonderful country. We have a lot of security. A lot of our basics are taken care of. Hopefully, there's some love in our life as well. The gratitude that comes of perspective of you know what? I got a lot to be thankful for. And through all of this creates sort of a self-reinforcing cycle that keeps people in the organization for a very long time, like this group of people who spent over 15 years in this community of folks. The organization I want to work with has a positive impact on the world around it, both small, because the small is wonderful, and very big, because that's wonderful and in different ways. Helps those less advantaged and in need, because frankly, I think we all know this in our hearts, that the only real source of fulfillment and happiness in this world comes from helping other people who are not as lucky as we are, who cannot help us back in return. That's where fulfillment is, helping people and expecting nothing back in return. To me, it's about admirability. It's about how you feel when you're driving home at night, whether you're serious. You say, oh, yeah, tough day, because we all have tough days. We all have stresses. I mean, yeah, that's just part of our adult life. But as you're driving home, are you saying, hey, yeah, it was a tough day, but like deep down inside, I'm like, I admire what we're trying to do here. I admire what we're about. It's a source of pride and maybe even nobility. That's how I couch it. In a word, I think this comes down to caring. What's the thing I hear the most from people in the company? I just like helping people, and this job allows me to do that. In a prior company, when I had a ridiculously large market research budget, I spent it on anthropologists and psychologists to try to understand deep down in the minds of people as they approach the optical category what's going on in the sort of deep crevices of their psyche. And I came up with the conclusion from this research that what are people looking for? People who will care for them. A doctor who will care about getting their prescription right, who will care about their health, and then people will say, no, you do look good in this, or no, do not walk out of here with that. That is just a wrong decision. They're looking for good, honest care. You know this, I know this. I had to spend a lot of money on these psychologists, but you knew this beforehand. I think this is sort of the key underlying benefit, and if we're the most caring organization, we will continue to win and win in this word-of-mouth business, this fair business where those who take the best care of the patients and customers win, and those who don't deserve to lose. I am not naive. Well, I'm a little naive, but I'm not completely naive. Our tribe has over 1,100 campfires. Each of you is in charge of one of those campfires, and I do not believe that it is Shangri-La every day in every one of your stores. I read the in-touch messages and hear, therefore, from some of the happiest associates and some of the most frustrated associates as well. They're the ones who leave the anonymous messages on in-touch, so I know it is not Shangri-La every day in every one of our stores. But the things I've been talking about, I think and hope, are the core elements of the culture that I think we're all aiming at here at National Vision. I mean, I didn't make these things up. I came about this from hanging out with you and from learning from you and trying to figure out what it is that, what do I do when I meet somebody who's been with us 15 more years? So what caused you to stay here? These things come from those discussions. If we're able to do this, there are just multiple levels of good. It's a great place to spend our career. It's a great place to be an optometrist, because it better be a great place to be an optometrist. We better be the best place to do that if we want to continue to succeed in the way we have. It's a good place for people to get health care. The optometrist in your store is, for many of the patients and customers you see, the only healthcare interaction that person's going to have that year. They may be uninsured. They're intimidated to go into a medical building. God knows what sort of a bill you might walk out with from a medical building. Our healthcare system is totally screwed up. but they feel comfortable in a Walmart walking into the doctor there. They know it's going to be okay, and that doctor is often saying to them, hey, do you know you have diabetes or hypertension? They're seeing things that can be very dangerous and treating them and making sure they get to the right place. It's not just a refraction. We are, in many ways, a front line of American healthcare. We're a good place for great prices for medical necessities in a category that has been taking advantage of consumers for a long time. Good community citizens and good global citizens. I'm hoping these are the elements that drive you too, because if so, then we're doing work that we can be proud to be associated with, a proud place and way to have invested some of our very, very precious 16,000 days. Let's go forth and create the company that we are very proud to be associated with. Thank you very much.